Come to Nicholas Rushworth and his excellent facial hair for a look through the international press. Nicholas, you're going to start us off in the United States. There are a lot of articles, as we could surely expect, about what's been going on in Ferguson, Missouri.
And racist police, Catherine. Of course, what we've got across the board in the US media, we've got the coverage of Ferguson and that Department of Justice report, very damning, saying that what we've got here, well, the proof is in a series of emails. Let's see there, USA Today. The headline, "What black man holds a job for 4 years?" That was one email sent by police in Ferguson in November 2008, arguing that President Obama would not be president for very long. Another nasty email, another example cited in the Department of Justice report, an email sent in 2011, in April of that year, depicting Obama as a chimpanzee. There you can see in the picture there of USA Today, the mayor of Ferguson, James Knowles, obviously reacting to what is awful news.
Well, what are the newspapers closer to home around St. Louis saying about this?
Well, I turned to the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, which would be the sort of main paper in the area, and its editorial board is saying the hammer of justice has fallen on Ferguson. Now, along with the racist emails that the Department of Justice found, one of the sentences that stood out for me in that article was that when Ferguson police sent dogs out onto somebody, when they released a dog onto someone, 100% of the people that the dog was set on was black. So that I just, one of many examples. Let the firings begin, says the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Let them begin at the top. Dump this police force ASAP. The people of Ferguson deserve better.
Well, it's really torn that community apart, hasn't it, with all those violent protests that we saw rumbling on last year for many weeks.
What about the politics? I turn to The Hill in Congress, which is the main paper to go to for all the hardcore political issues. The Congressional Black Caucus is saying, now the world knows the truth about racism and the justice system in the United States. The headline there for The Hill there, the caucus, the Congressional Black Caucus saying, we want changes implemented without obstruction and without delay. So they have the upper hand there at this point.
OK, let's move on to a more international story. Several papers reporting on a claim from Russia that the United States is trying to oust Vladimir Putin.
Well, this is a story that's taken up by lots of the papers. I chose this coverage from the Daily Beast, where you can see the headline, US is trying to oust Putin. And this is about an email that the Russian intelligence chief, Nikolai Patrushev, sent encouraging mass demonstrations, saying that the US, Washington, is encouraging mass demonstrations and financing political opponents. I mean, that's quite extraordinary, given the news of the death of Boris Nemtsov, who's the opposition politician who has been killed. Now, Obviously, that is a story that will develop. I turned to the Moscow Times to see if they were covering it. Instead, I saw this at the top of their comment page saying, yes, relations are very, very bad between Moscow and Washington, but in the long term, over the decades, all Cold Wars have to end in a thaw, and it's arguing that, hold on, we just have to be patient. Putin and Washington are at loggerheads, but there will have to be negotiation on both sides to end the deadlock over a multitude of issues now that we're seeing all this tension. That piece ending there saying the West has to learn that the world is incomplete without the Russians. The West, if it ignores Moscow, does so at its peril. So international relations there between DC and Moscow.
OK, we'll carry on with the cartoons, but switch stories. We're looking at the efforts this week to secure a nuclear deal with Iran.
Well, a lot of the attention has been about Benjamin Netanyahu's speech to the Republican-led Congress, and that's been a theme throughout the last couple of days, hasn't it, that's really been covered in full. China Daily's take on this, catching up with events there, you can see it, that the Israeli Prime Minister is actually doing very great harm to the negotiation process for a deal with Iran.
Is that supposed to be a dove of peace?
Well, the dove of peace is trying to lay the eggs of nuclear harmony, and Netanyahu is getting in the way. That's
lots of symbolism going on in that one.
That's a China Daily take. And the cartoon for the International New York Times this Thursday is still with this Netanyahu-Obama clash. There you can see its take saying that Netanyahu has stolen the thunder with his State of the Union style address. Of course, Netanyahu thundering away there against any deal with Iran.
Oh, thank you very much, Nick Rushworth, there with a look through the international press for us today.